17-year-old Shalisha Boyd, a student at an alternative learning environment in Tulsa called Street School, is beating the odds.
I want to graduate high school and graduate college, and I want to be a nurse.
By spring, Shalisha hopes to be throwing her cap in the air, celebrating high school graduation like these graduates before her. She remembers that as a young child, she sometimes lived in homeless shelters with her mother. When Shalisha was 12 years old, her mother died. After that, she lived with her dad, but that arrangement wasn't stable.
There was a point in time when my roommate kicked me out, and I had to go and stay with my dad's girlfriend because he didn't really have a stable place to stay either. He was just kind of like staying with friends or whatever.
She dropped out of school in 9th grade and gave birth to a little boy at age 15. Now she is a mother of a 2-year-old, awaking at 5:30 every morning. Shalisha is a full-time student during the day and works 30 to 40 hours a week at a grocery store in the evenings and on weekends. She and her child now live with a mature couple who took them in. Still, she feels like she's never really had a home.
A lot of moving around. I still feel like till this day that I don't really have like a stable place. I mean, I know I do, but I've always been moved around, and it's just not fun or easy, especially with a baby.
Monica Brown lost her stability at the age of 12 when her father died. She says her mother kicked her out of the home. She remembers the fear of homelessness from just a year ago.
I just stayed in the park. Thought it was the safest place. But you had to stay up all night.
How long did you do that?
Like 2 days. And then my friend, she brought me to her house, and then I wasn't able to stay there no more. So we like kind of slept in this abandoned house.
And for about a year, she drifted, always worrying about where she would sleep at night.
I was with a friend and staying with a friend's friends or my sister's friends or anybody that would let me stay the night.
A lot of kids are couch to couch. They don't have a stable home life. There's extreme dysfunction, or there is no immediate family that has the capacity to care for them.
Street School's Kelly McElroy says the futures of many teens' lives are changed here.
We have kids here that suffer from a variety of forms of abuse, addiction, extreme generational poverty, family dysfunction, you name it. There is some story here that the reason these kids are here. These kids have been dealt a deck of life cards that just weren't in their favor.
And Oklahoma has a growing number of children who are homeless through no fault of their own. According to the State Department of Education, more than 15,000 public school children are considered homeless. The number of identified homeless students has increased 92% in the last 4 years. Approximately 2,500 of those students are in shelters, transitional housing, or awaiting foster care. More than 11,000 are runaways or living with other families or unaccompanied by a guardian. 1,200 are living on the streets, and 415 are in hotels and motels. Some children end up in youth shelters like this one in Payne County.
We are technically licensed by the Department of Human Services to have residency ages between 7 and 17 years.
Janet Foltz is the executive director of this shelter. She says the young people are here for a number of reasons. One little girl was dropped off at the shelter after her parents were busted for a meth lab. Others are here because they were sexually or physically abused. Some just have no place else to go.
I think it's really important to remember that there's no singular face of a homeless child or a child that comes into a shelter. They come to us from a variety of backgrounds for a variety of reasons.
Foltz says she has noticed a new trend in the last few years.
Young people are staying longer in our facility. It seems like there are fewer placement opportunities for them. Sometimes that's related to the economic downturn.
Despite their home instability, many children still manage to show up at school. Stillwater Public Schools has about 5,000 students in the district, and 122 of those are considered homeless. The district's homeless liaison says that's just too many.
122 students that don't have a fixed, adequate, and stable home environment is too many. But I think it pretty much mirrors, you know, our size of population. In fact, we're probably lower in Stillwater than a lot of school sites, especially in the, you know, urban areas.
Carol Talley helps implement federally mandated programs to help these students finish their high school education. Programs like signing up for free meals at school, transportation services, and even filling out financial aid papers for college.
Everybody always says, you know, oh, you work with the hard kids or the bad kids, and I always say, no, I work with the very resilient kids.
Vanessa Wedlake is a social worker who deals with homeless students on a daily basis. She says there's no answer to why so many students are becoming homeless, but it almost always stems from extreme poverty.
When 1 in 4 families in Oklahoma have to rely on some sort of benefits from the state, and when the family starts deteriorating, there's divorces, people are moving, they're in transition, then sometimes these teenagers, if we're talking specifically about teenagers, they sometimes try to find their own place and make their own life, and so they're living with lots of different people. They're leaving their clothes at other places because their families are in such turmoil.
It is Wedlake's job to take these kids and sometimes their parents by the hand and walk them through every step to continue their education. She says for the kids she works with, dropping out of school is not an option they want to take.
It's so important for students to have routine and some sort of normalcy. And when they're a student in transition, they still want to be like anyone else. And so, of course, they want to be in school. They want to hang out with their friends. This is where their friends are.
Many of these students are forced to learn from an early age that they will have to work much harder for the same results as most of their peers.
The resiliency is really the key. It's one of the things that we try to foster when we're working with them, is that we can't control some things that happen to us. We can control, to a large degree at least, our reaction to those circumstances.
Many students like the ones at Street School have learned their education is the key for a stable adult life. They are forging a different path to the future with the dedication of understanding teachers and counselors who are trying to help just some of Oklahoma's young people facing incredible obstacles.